Welcome, everybody, to the After Dark Show. I'm Don Rogers. This week's topic is really interesting, and I used to be a bit of a history buff myself, so I find this subject fascinating. And what we're going to get into is history, heraldry, and the hierarchy. And, we're basically going to get into the breakdown of people's coats of arms. We're going to hear one of my friends' family lineage a bit, and then we're also going to get some of the esoteric symbolism broken down for some of these things as well. So I think this is going to be a really interesting show, and I couldn't have picked two better people because they're two of the most intelligent young researchers that I've had the pleasure of coming across in my journey of understanding. First is she's the voice of the Earth Grid Rescue Mission on YouTube. She is one of the best researchers I've personally met in the field of symbolism and the esoteric. She's been on the show before, and she delivered an absolutely amazing presentation on seals and sigils on her first appearance, and it's always awesome to have her on the show. Michelle, thank you for coming back.
Don, you give such great introductions. You even called me young, like, wow. Thank you for having me back. It's always an honor and a privilege. It always feels like family here at March 4th Productions, and it's not just because we have the same birthday. I feel like you're like a soul brother. I feel like Spinge is like a soul fractal of myself, and it's always amazing to come on and have these conversations because I always leave with more wisdom than I came with.
Thank you, and you always bring some amazing knowledge. And my second guest is an amazing young researcher that I actually met through a departed friend that both Michelle and I also share, the late, great Miss Renetta Jones. And he is absolutely one of the most quick and intelligent young researchers. And I've seen him give these presentations on other podcasts where he can break down the lineage that his family has gone through and a lot of the information in regards to coats of arms. And he is just, I can't emphasize him enough, this young man's gifts of research and his articulation. And as always, it is a pleasure to have you on. Conor Allen, thank you for joining us. And I love the Dr. Evil spin. That was dope.
Yeah. Thank you. I just got to do it.
Yeah. So, as some of you may remember from the last time Conor was on, we didn't quite get to finish the show on YouTube because I guess
I got canceled. Sorry.
Yeah, we kind of got interrupted midstream. So I wanted to kind of pick up at the point I didn't get to ask you about what got you really interested into history and heraldry. So if we can pick up there, what really, like, at what age and what drew you to history?
Are you talking to me?
Yes, you, sir.
Okay. So I was fascinated with history at 12 years old. I started getting into history around 12. I always asked my mom and dad, hey, I want this book for Christmas. I want history books for Christmas. I was a history buff. And, there's no doubt about it. I got A+ in history. So that was my favorite courses. That was my favorite thing. I was obsessed with history. I mean, you wouldn't even know me. Like, I was just like right out the bat. I mean, I was just a history buff, history nerd, or whatever you call me. But I was I loved history. I loved reading books. I mean, I was always active. I was also writing. I like to write too, so I like to write history. I like to be, get this information from my head. One of my great gifts is to memorize entire books. Like, I can memorize a date. I can memorize a particular event. I mean, like, I'm like a fucking encyclopedia. Like, I don't know why, but I'm just like that. But yeah, I just love history. I just love getting into it. And I just absolutely love researching it. So that's how I kind of got started. So age 12, around there, the age that I got really obsessed with history was about 16. So I was about 16 years old when I got really obsessed. So yeah.
And how did that tie into you discovering heraldry and getting into that?
Well, I've been studying heraldry since I was 13. So a little bit later about studying history, but history is and heraldry are one of my top things. I just love breaking down stuff. I just like to be like brief, and I just like to be like, here's the fact, yada yada yada. This is the thing. I am so bored when people give a long explanation. I just like to be brief. I just like to, let's cut to the chase. You know what I mean? So let's cut to the chase and let's get on with this. So like a brief history intro. This is what's going on. And plus I do that in all my videos. Basically, I do that in all my videos that I do. And I just like, okay, this is what you need to know. Okay. Great Pyramid of Giza, yada, yada, yada. Okay, this is how I found out about this particular topic. I always cut to the chase. I always do that. I always give like a simplified version so people can understand it more. That's why I always break it down. My teachers never broke it down for me. I did this all by myself. I learned all by myself. So I didn't learn nothing from Common Core bullshit. I learned for myself. I learned from books. That's how I got my knowledge. And so, I like to be open-minded, is how you would put it. I like to be open-minded. What I read in books, I apply to my own knowledge. I apply to my own opinion and my own ideas. I'm like that. That's my personality. I'll like to, okay, this is the information I gathered. Oh, and I'm going to give you this type of situation. Okay, yeah. King George III did this. King George III did that. Emperor Qin Shi Huang did this of China. And, it's like I give a simplified version. That's how I do it. That's my personality. I don't like being long. I just like to cut to the chase. You should know that because I do 1 hour videos on my YouTube channel. I hate talking for 2 hours by myself. I just hate it. I absolutely hate it. I just like to talk for an hour and done. I'm done. I'm off. I'd see up. Bye bitch. Done. I'm done.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
I'm just a cut to the chase person. I just like doing that. So
yeah. And just to give everybody a quick refresher, Michelle, what actually got you into researching the esoteric end of things and the symbolism?
Sure. I mean, well, I've been a very obsessive compulsive researcher for over 8 years, and it started with Unacknowledged with Stephen Greer. But what led me into heraldry was back in December, I was on the brink of either going down the spiritual path or going back into a religious path. And I wanted to be a nun at one point. I was always fascinated with people's love for God. I felt like when I walked into church, I didn't have that experience. And I wanted to know why there was such a disconnect. And I found a woman named Jessie Zaboter who you can find her over at Aquarius Rising Africa. You can find her on Rumble. And she was groomed to be the next Mother of Darkness, which is the lead head position for humans that are connected with these fallen angels that are leading the Luciferian Brotherhood and the Luciferian agenda. And their agenda is to wage war with God's source creator in an end time event. And I learned that she was teaching these classes on the seals, and the seals are contracts between those in the spirit realm and their human counterparts that are here in the physical. And these seals, they are like legends or keys, and when they're ratioed correctly to the appropriate jurisdiction, is a complete unlocking into their satanic ritual grounds, their super soldier programs, their labs, their everything to do with their contracts. It lays out like a map. And I was shocked to find out that the people in this community that were studying this were not interested in creating some kind of a database where we started decoding these seals so that as people came into the community that they would have a profile for their town, right? Like, I don't have children, but I always felt like a den mother. And I always felt like after I learned this, I was like in a surreal state of mind. I'd be at the grocery store and I'd see people playing with their babies, or I'd see kids in there from like the softball team buying Slim Jims and Gatorade running around. And I'm like, these people have no idea what's happening to their children at school. And I was deeply disturbed by it. And I felt like, I felt like there needed to be some kind of voice. And so that's kind of what led me down the spiritual pathway, was that these people, sorry, I don't know if I have something on my face. Maybe it's my screen. Sorry, guys. Sorry. I'm always the person with the booger in my nose, never know till after the conversation's over. Now we all know. I always felt like, there's something going on here that's got to be bigger than us. Like, I mean, I've experienced trauma my whole life. I was having you had somebody on your show. It's your friend that was doing that competition, right? Where you voted for them. He's a veteran. I apologize. I can't remember him and his wife's name. Forgive me. But she was talking about like these death premonitions, right? And I've experienced that my whole life. And I later learned this was voice to skull. So how does this all tie in with the seals? When I found out that people in the community that were avid students of this woman, Jessie Zaboter, that no one was interested in cataloging these, that this was like, yes, I think it's important. Yes, I think it's serious. Yes, I'm learning it, but I'm not really interested in talking to my friends that are into the woo about it. I was deeply disturbed. And so I went looking for other communities, and I had never been involved in a community at all. The whole time I was a researcher, I never had a community. I was solo in all of this. And I found Conor, I found Renetta Jones, and the moment I found her, I knew this was the woman that I was looking for. Sorry to be long-winded for another minute. There was a series called Knowledge of the Forever Time that deeply changed my life. And I had seen this almost a decade ago, and I've thought about it every day since. And the moment that I found Renetta, I knew this was the woman I had been looking for. And we became very close. I've been working with her for a couple months before she invited me into her groups. And that was because she said one day, Michelle, you cannot talk to your friends about this. And I was like, what friends? I don't have any friends. And she's like, you don't have any friends? Like, you need to come to my groups. So she started inviting me into her groups. And it wasn't but 8 weeks later after coming to her groups. And Conor was incredibly sick at the time. Conor, I remember, had come down with a sickness. And so he hadn't been there for the last couple groups, but he was like a right-hand apprentice to Renetta. You know what I mean? Like the two of them together really brought the story to life. They brought the mundane details to the surface, and they brought it in such a way it was so fascinating. And this changed me. Like, this activated me, and I ended up channeling what I feel like was from Source and from Gaia, a plan to rescue the Earth. And I felt like this was finally my calling in life. This is what I'm supposed to be doing. So that's what led me into it, was I started doing decodes. Now, when she passed, I felt her in my kitchen 2 days before I found out that she was deceased. And I felt like I saw in my mind's eye someone handing me like a baton or a torch. And after that, I suddenly had this third eye activation where I was able to decode. And I felt like, this woman gave her life for us to have this knowledge. She was a sacrifice. And how selfish of me to allow my fear to be the deciding factor in whether I was willing to move forward or not. And so, like Conor, we've kind of taken up the work. And the heraldry, the reason the heraldry connected is because this club, this shadow government, whatever you want to call them, they are very much into their genetic racism, their eugenics, their bloodlines. And they use symbols as a means of communication. And so that's kind of what started it for me. Now Conor is a mega mind with the heraldry. He has the mind of a sponge. And I don't have that background in history, but I do have the third eye activation and the spiritual eyes and the training from Renetta. So I have, on a way, I've become a student of Conor's. because I have learned so much from him, and he's come on my show. I've gone on his, but he has laid it out for me. And there's always more questions than answers, right? Once you get information, you have 100 more questions. But Conor has something very special in him, and that is that his love for history has become a huge resource and a huge wealth, a fountain of wealth and knowledge for our community. And we need to pay attention to what he's saying.
Absolutely. And that is, both of you have such an amazing entrance into this world. And I love to come at things from 101 aspect as much as possible. Conor, would you be able, we've thrown the word around a few times, what is heraldry? Like, for those at home and that are listening and watching, like, if you aren't familiar with the word, what is it?
So heraldry was developed by King Edward III of England, and its purpose is to trace the family that you originally came from. So its purpose is that, so if you are of a noble or royal blood, you can easily trace back to that lineage. And then also, he also laid the foundations for future generations of that particular family. So that's the reason why he developed heraldry in England, and it spread throughout Europe and most of the world after his death. I mean, like, it was like the perfect tool of finding out your personal bloodline to that particular person. I mean, it was a very, very easy process to do. I mean, like, if you were of a, for example, so let's say you're of a noble descent. So let's say if you're of the Dukes of Beaufort, okay? So you're signed with a particular coat of arms going back into history. So let's say your bloodline goes back to the 14th century. Yeah, okay. Let's say your bloodline goes back into the 14th century. So then you'll be able to trace your lineage to people who came before you and after you. So like they always kept colleges of arms. They always keep that because it's like a genealogical repository of where you actually came from. So they have all the coat of arms, they have all the genealogical trees, they have all of that information. It was founded by King Edward III of England. Every royal house on earth, house is actually a term for a dynasty. So like a small little dynasty, but in China, a dynasty is even a bigger part. So if you're of a royal house in China, you're of a family that you originally came from. The dynasty is what you founded in China. But again, it's totally different. Again, modern historians don't understand that term. They think house and dynasty are the same thing. In actuality, they're not. They're not really the same thing. They're just different terms. You know what I mean? So like, if you're of a royal house, that would take place of what castle or region you came from. So like, for example, the House of Hanover, they came from Hanover. The actual dynasty will be called Brunswick. Their actual house will be Hanover. So again, it's a total different theme. So yeah, that's a little bit about heraldry.
It really is like a language, isn't it?
Yeah, different languages. So if you have like a motto, like it will easily be traced to that person, whoever developed that motto, and their ancestors. So like, for example, so bishops in the Catholic Church, they always choose an Episcopal motto. So like my previous archbishop, you know what? I'll say my archbishop. So my archbishop's Episcopal motto is Ecce Agnus Dei, means behold the Lamb of God. And he has this particular coat of arms. So like on one side has the coat of arms for the archdiocese, the other coat of arms of what he chose. So like, you have a specific motto you individually can choose, or for your immediate family. So there's a difference there. So if you're a Catholic bishop, you choose your own motto. If you're a hereditary ruler, You're assigned by that of who founded your family. So whoever fought in the Battle of Crécy in France with King Edward III, that's who developed heraldry. So at that time, it's a beginning of heraldry. Before that, you can trace your ancestors, you can trace where you came from, you can trace what castle you came from. So heraldry is just a genealogical chart. Remember, I always said in ancient times, king lists are essentially genealogical trees of the monarchs.
Makes me think of Genesis.
That's part 2 of that. Genealogical charts, like such as king lists that keep accurate records of king lists. See, this is what historians don't tell you. King lists are genealogical trees. They're family trees. So they trace the lineage from that particular king to earlier, but however, they don't understand the importance of a king list. That's right, every culture and every medieval society kept king lists. So the importance of a king list should not be overlooked. King lists are essentially genealogical records. I mean, they're like actual representation of where you actually came from. So like you can't discount that. But modern historians say, oh, it's just a list of monarchs. Okay, can you prove it's a list of monarchs, but they're telling you they're going way back. I always say on my channel that every monarch is descended from their gods. It's on their king lists. You can't discount that. Because the more that they show their lineage, the more that they accurately represent it. So heraldry was eventually developed as a societal genealogy, so you can trace what ancestors you came from. That's why King Edward III in England especially, wanted to say, okay, everyone, you want to learn your ancestry? This is why I developed coat of arms. This is why I developed heraldry. So that's the main reason why he developed heraldry, because the peasants didn't know who their ancestors were. So if they were this illegitimate child of a noble or a particular prince, they can trace their lineage to that. That's how important a king list, heraldry, and coat of arms actually is. It's very important, but historians today like to discount that. Oh, it's just a family tree, ancestry. Oh yeah, it's just a family tree, whatever you came from. I don't care what it is. This is what I would say to them. Fuck you. You don't understand the true history of it. Yeah. You get paid millions of dollars and you don't tell the truth. I mean, English coat of arms, if you're of a royal house or nobility, it means you're onto something. If you're assigned of a hereditary coat of arms, you can trace that lineage to that person and their ancestors. It's not a coincidence. It's there. It's written black and white. The reason why they developed heraldry in coat of arms is to trace who your ancestors were.
Yeah.
Basically, that's what it is.
Okay. And I actually want to try something fun here. I have the Rogers coat of arms. So if I pull that up, can you guys break it down for me? Because I think that would be absolutely amazing, because I've never had it explained to me what it actually means.
Pull it up.
Oh, wow. Okay. You go first, Connor.
All right. So the starts with the helmet, okay? So the helmet represents you're of a particular knight class. So your ancestor, whoever they are, fought in battle with their particular king. So they're of a gentry class. You can easily tell. The deer represents particular honors of chivalry. So So the deer under King Richard II of England represents a title of nobility. It was his badge of honor. So it's called the badge of the White Hart. So if you have a deer with a badge with that particular ring, your ancestor was in the court of King Richard II of England. So basically, you're of a highest gentry order in the land, one of the highest, assigned by King Richard II. So basically, you're descended from a ruler or a particular knight or earl, whatever it is, who was in close contact with King Richard II. So if you see that deer, I would automatically say you're descended from one of the men who was close to King Richard II of England, because he's the one who developed that particular badge. And so essentially there's a term called bastard feudalism. So this is the type of knights, dukes, earls that his grandfather, Edward III, developed. So he's taking that steps further. So bastard feudalism is essentially a rough feudalist class that they believed in. So if you're of a royal family, you have automatic titles. If you are of a noble family, you are received specific ranks. If you're of gentry, you're automatically given a knighthood. So, and if you're a peasant, you just stay a peasant, unfortunately. But that's bastard feudalism, essentially. That's bastard feudalism. So basically, you're descended, Dawn, from a person who was close to King Richard II. I don't know who it is. Again, I don't know who your ancestors were, but essentially you were close to one of the men who served King Richard II. So that's the coat of arms.
That's awesome. That was awesome, Don. Thank you so much.
No problem.
Michelle, do you have anything to throw in?
Yeah, so I just want to be very clear. Okay, you put the picture back up so I can see it. Thank you. I don't mind if I'm covered. So I just want to be very clear. There's a difference between what they would call the province or the state seal and the coat of arms. Okay, the coat of arms are going to represent the magic circles within the bloodlines. Okay, and what's very interesting about this one is you can divide it from top to bottom, and it's symmetrical on the right and the left. You find this indicative with Kabbalah magic. And I can give you a breakdown on the colors right now. So you have white, which is a contract with Lucifer, and you have black, which is a contract with Angel of Death. If you look at the heaviness at the top, where you have the knight's helmet, that is the positioning of Abaddon or Apollyon, who is going to be connected with war, knowledge and information connected with war, the training up of super soldiers, the training up of knights, and the heaviness around like the 5 o'clock and the 11 o'clock, that's going to be Baal, and you're going to have Azazel. Okay, so these are fallen entities, all right? They are drawing down the power, and they are creating contracts with these entities to pull knowledge through. And I just want to be very clear, just because you are in the club, okay, and you have these contracts, yes, we look at these people with wealth and think they have the best lives. They do not. Okay, they are suffering and they have demonic attachments to them. They are not free of their own mind. But really what they never talk about is that this actually has to do with the mother's lineage. This goes up the matriarch side of the family. So we know that this was a family that had Kabbalah magic. And you can tell a lot about the types of contracts that were being made by the positioning of the crest, okay? So we have a downward facing crest, which is an unholy contract. But if you look, there's a split with a chevron pointing up. This means that we have a family divided, okay? And it would not surprise most people to find out that somewhere up the lineage, on whether it's your mother or father's side of the family, there's always going to be a Freemason. There's always going to be somebody that was involved in the club. They are very good at, if you have somebody who is independent, that is financially wealthy, that is coming up with ideas, they're always going to be approached, okay? And either one of two things is going to happen. Either one is they're going to be infiltrated, or two, they're going to abandon it and go isolate it, okay? And you see this all the time. You wonder why somebody who had all this talent, maybe with music, and all of a sudden they're living in the middle of nowhere, okay? They have to make this decision. You also have in the middle there, you see that 3-leaf going off. That's always going to represent the Holy Trinity. Okay, so they're always going to have this connection back. And as Conor said, you have a royal connection there to some kind of king. You got to think back to these 12 tribes that they had in the Bible, okay? There's always going to be a connection to one of these 12 tribes. Actually, there's 13 tribes is really what they call it, the 13th tribe. And that is going to be your Black nobility or your Islam connection. But these all connect back to those original tribes. And then the connection with the leaves, you see the heavy green and the gold leafery. These are very indicative of certain family members or certain night groups. These are going to be very unique, okay? They're going to have their own types of coloring. They're going to have their own kinds of decor and the way the leaf is designed. These are all signaling. So back in medieval times, when you were a knight on the field, you were representing your king or your kingdom. This was a language to let you know what the riches of the kingdom were. This lets you know, like, hey, I'm from a kingdom that is wealthy in crops or livestock or, riches. This is how they signaled it. And not only that, it was a caste system, right? We remember learning about the caste system. They had serfs and waifs, and there was the people that came to court, and there was the peasants, and then there was the royalty. And all of these leaves and stuff, those are going to represent the lineage or the line that you came from. So I would have to, just to piggyback on Conor there, I just want to be clear that most people, there's a reason they're called the 1%ers, okay? Most people have no idea what is going on. But there is a double talk here. There's always a double side to this. So they're always going to represent the language of the people. And like Renetta said, there's the language of the people, there's the language of the elite, and there's the language of the archons. Their language is symbols, and symbols will be their downfall. So I would say, Dawn, that you probably have some kind of special powers or magic in the family, and given your experience in the stories you've come out with about, waking up and understanding a huge depth of quantum physics, there's a reason that they wanted you in these programs. And Nathan Sisek talks about this. He talks about like the psychic bloodlines. Like, I know I have a heavy Ireland connection, and while I can't trace my family very far, there are oral, myth, legend stories that were handed down through the family. And I am very clairvoyant, but we all have our gifts, okay? And this would be a representation of the magic circle that the family had their strengths in. That's what this would represent.
That was freaking amazing, you guys. Like, I've looked at that picture probably 100 times. It was actually my Facebook profile picture for quite some time, and I had no idea what it meant, right? It was just like, hey, that's cool. I found my coat of arms. That's neat, right? That's what I knew about it. And Conor, you also have a very fascinating family lineage. Do you want to get into that a little bit? Because the first time I ever heard about this, I was like, holy shit. If you want to give the audience your family lineage, this always blows my mind.
Okay, so before I get into the coat of arms, I'm not actually of Allen. I'm a Stuart. So basically, I have a true royal lineage than the Windsors. So let me get you a brief history about it. So again, when I was about 3 years old, I was approached by a man who was a part of the Priory of Sion. He visited my dad when I was a little bit older. So I think it was about a year ago that he encountered him again. So basically, the story is, I am not going to mention the Magdalenian bloodline right out. I can't mention it because people get killed for it. So I'm not going to mention that. So basically is that he approached me when I was just a small little boy. And he told my family that, okay, you're part of a certain bloodline. And so basically you're the true royal heir of the House of Stuart. You're the rightful king of Scotland, England, and Ireland. Basically. So basically that's how he laid out the playing field. So again, he came in like in about like all kinds of suitcases, but they were not filled with clothes. They were filled with documents. They were filled with information. Like
Scrolls.
this was the paper. This was the list of shit that he came up with.
Oh my God.
In his suitcase. That's how long of a shithole that it was. So basically, the first part, he slammed it on the table. The first thing he said to us, okay, I represent the Priory of Sion. We protected several royal families for centuries. We protect all royal families because of a certain bloodline. So he basically said to me and all members of my family, Conor, you're of a royal lineage. You are the heir of the Merovingian bloodline. You're the heir of the House of Stuart. You're the true heir, not Franz of Duke of Bavaria. You're the true Stuart heir. That's what he said. So basically then, we went through 3 days of a paper this thick worth of information, documents. I mean, it was like an information overload. Like the first part that he talked about was the royal families were descended from God. So he talked a little bit about them. The second, after all that, the second day we talked about the kings that you're related to and the messianic figures that you're related to and all that, such as the Magdalene. But we're not going to get into that. But that was second day. The third day was talked about modern day. So then he get into, okay, so Conor, you're of a royal lineage through both your mother and your father's lineage. Through your father's lineage, you descend from Charles Edward Stuart, who is the rightful king of the Stuart line. Then, if you want to have a little history about it, you got me here. So basically, Henry VIII basically excluded the descendants of his elder sister Mary. However, they had a legitimate connection. The Stuarts had a legitimate connection. Now, let me tell you this. Elizabeth I was Henry VIII's daughter, but Margaret was the elder sister of Henry. So basically, the Stuarts had a more direct, legitimate line than Henry, basically. It is how you want to put it. So the Stuarts, through James V and his descendants, which I come in, are basically the rightful rulers of Scotland, England, and Ireland, basically. So then the Stuarts also have a direct Merovingian connection as well. They are related to every royal house on the face of the earth. They're more connected to the Habsburgs than they realize. They're more connected to Louis XVI of France than they realize. They are like the perfect example of a direct royal lineage. So again, Renetta and I talked about, since every royal house on earth is related to each other, that's how the Stuarts came in. They're related to every single royal family on the face of the earth at that time, including modern day. So my father and my mother are essentially cousins, basically. They're direct cousins. So my mom, this is about my mother. my mother's side of the family, she's descended from the direct Habsburg lineage, the Romanovs. She's also related to a little bit about the Windsors. So the story is that Elizabeth II had an elder sister, but was given up. But then she's also related to several Italian lineages. So basically, then they're cousins. So through the Habsburgs, you're related. Through the Italian, you're related. Through the Windsors, you're related. So it's a jungle, as that I would like to say. So basically,
I'm so sorry. I can't do it. It must be a hell of a family reunion.
must be. But basically, what happened next is that.
I'm sorry.
So basically, is that we had numerous royal connections. So let's just say it at that. Then after the third day, he told my grandparents only, "You're gonna take Conor to Scotland to Roslin Chapel." And so no parents were invited. No one was invited except grandparents and me. That was it. So we went to my grandparents. So again, we were given a special code to give in. So I'm not going to tell you the code because
why not? I've seen eyes like that. Okay, it's just us.
The anagram for Mary Magdalene is actually legendary mama. So if you present that, she is the mother of the future. So think about this. So in Catholicism, this is where I'm going to put it. I'm a devout Catholic. So Mary Magdalene was the first to witness the resurrection. She was the first to tell the disciples Jesus was resurrected. So she's the mother of the resurrected living, is how you would put it in terms of Catholicism. So basically, but then you have the Mary Virgin. I'm not going to tell you about that because, AI is watching me. So basically, we went in the chapel. Nobody was there until we got downstairs. So that basically they told my grandma they had a basket. Please put all your electronics, everything in this basket. You're not allowed to take photographs. Closed out event. I'm like, is this one of their rituals for sacrificing, or what is it? I found out later in an older age. So basically, cut out. Basically, it was a closed off event. So basically, my parents, you could pray up here in the chapel. They had a Catholic priest. They have all of that. So what happened next is that I was escorted down the steps, and then we entered in a large underground chamber. Now, the room was filled with people in suits. It was like I thought it was like a little government event later on in life, but these guys were wearing nice dress suits. The ladies were like wearing like 1920s style dresses. I mean, it was like crazy. Like, so then the entire chamber was filled of documentation of lineages from me to that specific ancestor. So like the entire room was coded of my ancestors. So basically they told me yada yada yada, this is who you descend from, this is who you descend from. So like it was like the most fantastic experience you would ever face. So after that experience, I took a DNA test. They were right. They were on the money. They were on the money.
That just blows my mind every time you tell me that. Like,
they were on the money. Again, I didn't know about my ancestors again till I was 12 years old. When I took a DNA test, and believe me, it was fucking expensive, but when I took a DNA test, it proves them right. Everything that they told me, everything that they told my family was right on the money. 100% accurate. So, it proved my connection to the Yorks, George Duke of Clarence, King Richard II, Bonnie Prince Charlie, Louis XVI, all those inbred royal fuckers, I'm related to. It was right on the money. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it. So everything that they told me from years ago was right on the money. But then my dad was at a golfing outing. He was in the bar. This mysterious guy approached out to him, and my dad was asking questions about about our family. He said, "Oh yeah, you're descended from the Stuarts. Oh yeah, you're descended from the Habsburgs." He knew everything about me. He knew everything about my great grandparents and their relatives. He knew everything about me. He knew everything about my mother, her side of the family, my dad's side of the family. He knew everything about me. Basically, so this happened twice, and DNA proved me 100% right. It was 100% accurate, like you would never believe. But basically, my grandfather would be the legitimate king of England today, and I'll be second in line to the throne today. My dad will be the heir. But essentially, I would be the next after my dad. So if my grandfather was on the throne today, second in line for me. Dad first in line. Because since we had that connection to that particular ruler or rulers, as we like to describe. But I don't mind me saying this. When I found out I was related to Genghis Khan, I'm like, hell yeah, I want to conquer. I want to do this. I want to do that. I want to be just like Genghis Khan, you know? But yeah. I have some family members that I'm proud of who ruled countries. There are rulers I'm not liking. It's a family. You all have family members that you don't like. You all have family members that you love. Trust me.
Can't spell families with eyes.
Yes. Trust me. The person that I least like most of all, one of my ancestors is King Henry VIII. I dislike him because he had 600 lovers. He had 6 wives. I mean, like, I do admire him as a ruler, but as a family member, take that somewhere else.
Yeah. We actually have a couple of questions from the audience. One was back to the coat of arms thing. Divine Hazel was saying, "My last name is Bouchard. Why do we have at least 8 different coats of arms?"
So basically, if you're of the same name, it would mean that family split into 8 different parts, meaning they would have 8 different descendants. So basically, they would marry off to different spouses, so that you have the same name. However, you descend from 8 different ancestors. So basically, like, for example, so if you're an Allen, you're descended from the Fitz-Allens in Scotland. Same name, but same ancestor. It's essentially like that. So basically, if you're of the same name, but like if you have a different pronunciation, you have the same ancestor, basically. Over 0.25% of you genetically makes you different. All human beings are related to each other genetically. Only 0.25% makes you different in your DNA. That's all. That's the only thing that makes you different. Genetically, we're related to every human on this earth. But if you're talking about a particular family, that's different.
Yeah, that makes sense. The second question was actually from, he's literally one of my best friends on this world. We call him Lee the Enigma. The guy just went through a double lung transplant, was supposed to be in a coma for a month and was up that day. Like this man is a complete abnormality, and I'm not even just talking about his lungs. Haha.
I've talked to him in the chat. Hi, Lee.
He was asking, and he is new to YouTube and got some of his letters together. Were the pews in the church all on one side? Just asking.
No, there weren't. So basically, you would have an altar rail in the Catholic Church in the pre-ancient times. So you would go to the altar rail to kneel. They would go, body of Christ. You will stick out your tongue, just like that. So, but you won't receive communion on the hands. I absolutely hate receiving communion on the hands. I absolutely hate it. It drives me fucking crazy. When I'm an altar server, I see people go like this. I'm like, sir, put your hands like this. Ma'am, put your hands like this. It drives me freaking crazy.
Connor.
They're not understanding that if you are going through the ritual, if you're going through the consecratory prayers, the Eucharist is the body and blood of Christ. It drives me crazy that fucking disrespect the Eucharist. It drives me absolutely freaking crazy. Like there was an old lady, crippled little lady who pulling out the crab claw. I'm like, ma'am, put your hands flat. And I had to tell her again, put your hands flat. And then I had to say the third time, put your hands flat. Then I go, Father, she's not putting her hands flat. I had a rat on her. And she goes, and he goes,
no, I'm like,
ma'am, could you put your hands flat? Could you put your hands flat, please? So
it's wrong with colors, everybody.
When it comes to the Catholic Church, I am on my zone. I am traditional. If you ever come up to me like this, I'll say, you better put your hands down or else I'm putting my foot up your ass. Oh, wait.
With attitude.
Either do this.
There's so much pressure when you go to church these days, you know?
I know. Actually, if you want to know the story of why they started doing this, Satanists go up. They do this. You can easily tell. I said, you have to tell them, sir or ma'am, please put your hands flat as much as you can. Put your hands flat. But then they would take the host, the consecrated Jesus, into their pocket so they can desecrate it.
That's fucked up.
Satanists do that. Satanists believe in the presence of Jesus more than 64% of Catholics in the Eucharist. I looked at the stats. Now, the Catholic Church is a bureaucracy. They're not. No, this is the problem. My priest, love him to death. He gave me fair warning since I'm the one who's discerning the priesthood. He said, Connor, You need to be careful on your political opinions because they will persecute you for your political opinions. That's post-Vatican II for you.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, my priest, he said to me, they're supposed to be following the traditions of the Catholic Church. They're supposed to be following the doctrine. They don't. If you look at liberal bishops, priests, and popes, they've done far more damage. But however, the church still stands. It's 2,000 years old, founded by Christ himself. You can go over the history if you want to. But basically, they're the one. Vatican II led to that corruption. They led to the priest abuse. They led to this. They led to Eucharistic abuse. They led to all of that. That's Vatican II. And the Bible was founded by Catholics. It's a Catholic book. In 387 AD, the Bible was comprised. The Bible was put together by the Catholic Church. I had a post came out recently attacking me in the Catholic Church. So it's a Zionist. Sorry to say, but it was a Zionist going on. Catholics did this, Catholics did that, Catholics did it. I gave the most professional answer. I said, wow, I never felt so much hatred in my entire life from this post. I said, this is very disappointing for you, my brother. I will be praying for you. Gave the most polite response I can get because you guys know me. I would flip out.
Mm-hmm.
So I would flip out. So I gave the most polite response. People liked and comment on that comment. And I received more likes on that comment than that guy's post.
That's awesome.
Because I gave him the love. I said, okay, this is not okay. You're not supposed to be spreading hatred with each other. I absolutely dislike when people spread hatred about another person or a specific group. I hate it. But you should not have dropped that. I mean, come on. Basically, we're all adults here. Just grow the fuck up.
Yeah. I really have to say, like, the way you guys broke down my family's coat of arms, I think that is something you guys could do business-wise or professionally, because even the people in the chat were fascinated by what you guys were pulling forward. And in the spirit of that, I did actually find a couple other coats of arms, and I'd actually like to break them down if you guys don't mind.
Please.
Let's start with this one.
Oh, shit. There's a lot.
Rothschild coat of arms.
Well, my favorite group? Not really.
Yeah.
Okay. I might need to... Okay. It might take me a few minutes, so let me break it down. So I see a couple crowns, eagle. Oh, shit. Fuck.
I know.
Just what I need. This is just what I need. Of course, Rothschild. We had to break down the fucking Rothschild. Great. This is just lovely. I just.
This sounds demonic magic. You can tell by the red and the silver.
Yeah. You can also see by the crowns that means they're of the top Satanist class.
Yep. You're gonna have your draconic lines there.
Yep. If you tell by the arrows, that means you're a family of war.
Yep.
And if you see the red lion, they're descended from Satan. The dark eagle also represents the dark powers. And the helmet represents they came from a draconian race.
Exactly.
So let's break down what it means. Concordia Integritas Industria. Okay. Stop giving me Spanish. I want English. I don't speak fucking Spanish. If not, go to Mexico. That's where I want to speak Spanish. Okay. So if you want history of it, oh, lovely. They were founded by my aunts. The coat of arms were founded by my ancestor at Habsburg. That's fantastic. That gives me even more hatred of them. So basically, okay, the Rothschild family is an Ashkenazi Jew, noble bacon family from Frankfurt. So basically, they were founded by Meyer Rothschild, a court founded by the German landgraves or rulers of Hesse-Kassel. Now that their coat of arms means harmony, integrity, industry. Bullshit.
Something's rotten in Denmark.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's also they're the same family, but they also are in Austria, England, Naples, and France. And they were elevated by Queen Victoria. No, I hate you even more. My ancestors did a lot of shady deals, so that makes me hate them more.
Stop, Trixie.
So basically, they were elevated to Austrian nobility by Emperor Francis I of Austria. You son of a bitch. And they were elevated by Queen Victoria on her orders in 1847. Just lovely. I have a love-hate relationship with you, Queen Victoria. I just hate what you did, but you caused the world into chaos. Thanks a lot. And this family also founded Zionism. Just lovely. I just can't. I'm going to go mute myself so I can calm myself down. So if you see me do on a rant, so go on, Michelle.
Yeah, no problem. So as Conor said, you can tell there's a joining of different bloodlines here. So you have the blue, which is going to be the Holy See, and the red is going to be the Sanhedrin of Israel. This is going to be a combination of the Babylon system that has gone into the Leviathan system, or the system of the beast. So you're basically going to have an old bloodline transitioning into a new royal bloodline. And as he said, you can see war, that there's going to be different orders there. So you have like Order of the Garter, Order of the Bath. If you think about like the American dollar bill, what do you have on there? You have 13, you have that quiver, right? You have those 13 heroes.
And just a reminder for you guys that the Holy See has been infiltrated by this group. Unfortunately, I'm sorry to say, but my own church is just ruled by the Rothschilds. I mean, it's just terrible. I mean, they infiltrated so many. Their currency system is based on the Bank of England, and we have that today. When the Federal Reserve Act was passed, I have a love-hate relationship with this people. I mean, I hate the Rothschilds even more. I just fucking hate them.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely right. They have the black. Now, Connor's talked about the gray pope. Now, I know about the white pope and the black pope. The white pope is going to be coming out of the Vatican, and the black pope's going to be coming out of London. I'm assuming the gray pope is probably coming out of Washington, D.C.
Pepe Orsini is the gray pope. The gray pope, Pepe Orsini. We all know that the Orsinis control the Rothschilds. The Orsinis control the church bureaucracy. They control the world bureaucracy. So it's no secret. The great pope is fucking Pepe Orsini. The white pope is the Jesuit leader.
Correct. Yes. Yes. Your black pope is your Jesuit pope. He's correct. That's where you're going to get your like Scottish Rite Freemasons, which have the higher degrees than you do the regular Masons. Okay, so they talk about like the 33 degrees. What they don't tell you is that it's actually 360 degrees, and this has to do with, they call themselves adept or illuminated, and they call us the mundane or the profane. Okay, think about near-death experiences, you guys. What's one of the things that you hear commonly discussed in near-death experiences? They talk about when you pop out of the body, all of a sudden you have this like 1080 vision, right? It's not up, down, left, right, front, back. It's all of it. You have more than a heightened 5 senses. So that's what they're talking about here. And they are all about siphoning their power. So you have 300 satanic bloodline family members that are connected with knighthoods that have been incredibly loyal to this agenda going forward for millennia now. But they only allow a small puzzle piece to be shared amongst these grand high priests and priestesses. So, I've talked about this many times. At the top, there's 5 mothers of darkness. Then you have 2 grand high priests, 2 grand high priestesses that are in 4 quadrants in the United States and 4 quadrants outside. And then underneath them, you have 8 high priests and high priestesses. And below that, you have your druidic council. Okay, now how do they get moved up through these positions of power? Well, they are fighting a death to the duel. And they used to do this at the Vanderbilt mansion, which is Gloria Vanderbilt's. Trixie, will you stop? I apologize. We're still learning manners. She's a little stressed from the move. It's been intense. You're going to have these, think of Harry Potter. They're doing wizard duels, okay? So we know if we look back, now to go back to this coat of arms, we know going back that it was tradition that you didn't get to pick who you're going to marry. There was a dowry involved. They were all about their bloodlines. They were all about what kingdom you're coming from. This is the uniting of 3 kings. And they're at the top. And that red shield is incredibly indicative of somebody who has been a power player in all of this through the centuries, right? We know the stories of the Rothschilds, but this red shield goes back further than that. Yes, exactly. Yes.
The Illuminati.
Yes.
Yeah.
We're gonna have to probably get off here soon. Trixie's going nuts. I'm gonna have to take her for a walk.
Yeah. All right. I do have one more, and it's directly related to this, and Connor even mentioned it.
Oh, my coat of arms. Lovely.
Yeah, the royal family.
The Irish harp there.
I just have to say one thing. Long live Scotland! Okay, now I got it out of my chest.
Yeah.
Okay. So the lion represents the Lion of Judah. So basically, the crown, if you see on the top of the knight's helmet, that represents the crown of St. Edward. St. Edward the Confessor was the last Anglo-Saxon king. He is the patron saint of the British monarchy to date, basically. The unicorn of Scotland represents the tribe of. There's multiple different associations with the unicorn, but there's an allegory of the unicorn. So basically, the story is in Middle Ages that all unicorns were hunted and killed. This was an allegory for the who descends from the Merovingian or royal bloodline.
Come on.
So basically, that's what the unicorn represents. So basically, if you have the 2 combinations of that royal house, that means they're of a pure descent. So if you see the lions of England represent the Lion of Judah, represents the kingdom. The unicorn of Scotland represents purity and royal blood. So basically, if you look at the blue insignia there, so if you see, come with the motto. So this is the Order of the Garter. So it's French. So I will do the translation and the meaning. So the meaning is called "Odissoir qui molly pense," and it means shame on those who think evil of it. So the story goes is that King Edward III found a court of a lady slipped her garter. Amidst the laughter, the king bent over and said that phrase, "Honi soit qui mal y pense." Shame on those who think evil of it. So that's what led to the foundation of the Order of the Garter. Underneath, you would see the Tudor Rose of England. the shamrock of Ireland, and the thistle of Scotland, representing the 3 United Kingdoms. So if you see at the bottom, Dieu est mon droit. So that's French, meaning God and my right. That was a motto for King Richard I, the son of Henry II, and the brother of King John. So if you know from the Disney's Robin Hood, it would be Prince John. So basically that. So King Richard I was away on crusades. His brother was regent. He's the terrible taxes king. So basically, King Richard I was this great military hero. He was called Coeur de Lion, French for the Lionheart. So that's the meaning for King Richard I. And he said that in his way to battle. What makes sense that while my supposed family was raised to sacrifice. Yep, that's right. Yep. Dieu est mon droit, meaning God in my right. So that's basically became a very top motto for the British coat of arms and for the royal family of Britain. So basically, that's the British coat of arms.
Great. Michelle, what's your end of this? What do you get from the symbolism end of this thing?
Well, you can definitely tell there's Freemasonry here. Think about like Freemasonry, sign language, right? With Freemasons. Hi, Angela. I love Angela. She's wonderful. She's in Oklahoma, where I just left. Okay, think about Freemasonry symbolism, right, you guys, right? It's all like a sign language with hands and feet. Look at how they're positioned there, right? You can actually go and look up on Pinterest and look up Freemasonry statues, like the way you stand, your stature, and you can see the way that the hands and the feet are positioned, okay? I believe these are called, what, the supporters? Is that what those are called, Connor?
Yes, that's what they're called.
Yeah, the supporters. And
you see the chain around the unicorn that represents enslavement. So the purity of the royal bloodline united with Judah, that means they're enslaved by the top elites. So that means you have to do whatever we say or else we're going to kill you and your people. So the chain wrapped around the unicorn represents enslavement. So this is the true Stuart coat of arms before the Windsors decided to take it from themselves. So this is a Stuart coat of arms. This is not Windsor. This is Stuart.
Yeah, and look at the belt, you guys. Like anybody who's had family that would have police in the family, I definitely was picking up on this in Pittsburgh. You'll see this in the United States where they have this with their police departments, that like belt there. And the other thing I started noticing was like the colors. Like, you know, the 4 quadrants I mentioned with the Mothers of Darkness, these are color coded. They're on dragon nodes. And they have these colors to the point where, like, if you even go and look in your grocery stores, my friend sent me a picture of her little girl at the grocery store, and they had this big cardboard display cut out, and it was a giant Knights Hospitaller, and it was all in blue, right? And the Pepsi was blue, and the Doritos were blue. She was in a blue quadrant, like literally down to the logos on the food, the logos on the card symbols. They are all indicative of contracts. They are all, and let me tell you how seals can be represented. They can be represented like ribbons. Like think about your military uniforms with ribbons, right? You can have chevrons. You can have seals that are circle, seals that are diamond shaped, seals that are square. Go and look up on Wikipedia and start looking up like the Order of the Seraphim, the Ancient Order of the Bear, the Order of the Garter. These are all of their societies. Am I saying 99% of them are aware? No, it's the people at the top. And they have a small...
on that. Did a video.
Yep.
Yeah.
So that's basically it.
All right. Take that. All right. I know you got to go deal with your dog, and we're coming up to an hour and a half anyway. I want to thank you both. Like, this has been freaking amazing. Like, you two literally could do these breakdowns professionally, and I know it would be something that would take off. Like, I'm being 100% honest. You guys should really think about a collaboration here, because you just absolutely knocked it out of the park. Like, it was yin and yang. Like, the information you gave me, my family alone, just blew my fucking mind. I really can't thank you guys enough. Conor, again, your family's origin story is absolutely amazing. Michelle, you were by far one of the most in-depth researchers I've met for symbolism. Like, you guys just killed tonight. Like, I can't. There's 20 people in the chat right now, and I even hate to even end the show, but like, you guys were freaking amazing. And I've put both of your YouTube channels in the description, but I'll start with you, Conor. Is there anywhere else anybody can meet you, get a hold of you? Oh, your email's in the description as well.
Yes. If you want to reach out to me, I would contact my email. I'm not giving you my personal number. That's only for friends and family only. And so I would definitely reach out to my email. So, if you need anything, just let me know. And yeah, that's basically where you can find me. If you want to follow my YouTube channel, go ahead. I have a YouTube video coming up next Monday, so tune into that.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Conor. You are a brilliant young man. That's all I can say. Michelle, what do you got going on, and where can they reach you?
Well, Conor and I've actually talked about this a few weeks ago when I had him on my show to talk about heraldry, and he gave an amazing breakdown on the history and the lineage. I mean, I was just blown away by it, but I've been hoping Conor was going to put a course together, and he's going to come back on. We talked about this briefly, but we might be doing like an every Saturday heraldry like discussion as a podcast. But so you can find me on YouTube. I'm the Earth Grid Rescue Mission, or Michelle Whitney 5604. Trixie says hello. You can find me on Spotify. You can find me on Patreon. You can find me on Substack. I am the Third Eye Roll. That's all spelled out, 007. And I'm going to be, I'm going to be on Typical Skeptic podcast this weekend. Anchor Haven Mystical Wellness. I know she's in the chat. She's like a soul sister to me. Her and I are going to be doing a combination with Typical Skeptic and a UFO group out of Pittsburgh. They need a clairvoyant. They need somebody, just an oracle card reader. So we're going to go on and offer our services. And I've got Raw Cloud Law of One coming on tomorrow night at 5 p.m. Eastern. I am aware, Trixie. And that's it.
All right, you guys, I will let you and your dog go for now. And Conor and Michelle, thank you both so much. Thank you, everybody that participated in the chat and hung out. You guys are awesome. Some amazing questions. Love you guys all. And like I always say, if you can, please go outside, because it's a lot better than sitting in front of this screen. I love you guys.